I'm gonna mute.
You're gonna what, Jeannie?
I'm gonna mute because I have a 3-year-old grandson here. So
Oh, fun. All right, good morning, everyone. It is week 2 of Let It Snow. It did snow, but not enough to take pictures of anything. Uh-uh. So we're still using the reference photo from a storm from 2 years ago, a different one, same location, same day as last week. Um, as some of you have probably figured out by now, I do like crooked trees hanging out over things. I don't know why. So we got one of those in there today. So we're going to start off by discussing the actual photograph first. Then we have our 2 pieces of paper again, just like last week, so you can work small. Once we get our composition line drawn on the paper, one of them, we're going to start off with some gesso, a little bit of watered down gesso. And whatever tools you want to use, I will go into that. I have some palette knives, you have any kind of paintbrush you want to use, and we're going to help start the painting that way by putting in some texture beforehand. While that dries, we'll start on the second one in the traditional way and add the texture towards the end. Um, okay, so let's go. I'm gonna switch, or did anybody have any questions from last week? I think we discussed that a little bit. Most of you finished it. If not, no worries. I'm going to switch cameras in just a second once this one. Oh, I didn't import those. I guess I should import those. Delete. Now, now that's ready. Okay, so I really zoomed in today, so I hope everybody can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I have the reference photo sitting out on top, just so we can kind of talk about it. My boards are square again, so I'm gonna obviously have to do make some decisions about how much and what I want in there. So in our reference here, of course, these little crooked trees, that's what I love. That's why I took the photograph. So these will certainly be in it. Um, this lovely tree right here is almost a natural line for me to cut off. So I probably will cut off that much and get rid of that from the right. Um, there are lots and lots of things happening over here, right? So let's just talk about if we peel away the layers. So all of this over here on the left-hand side, almost all of it is in the foreground. It's right next to me as I stand there taking the picture. So if we peel that away, we have all that water and all the reflection in the water. And then it looks like, and it probably is, because again, it's Birch Grove. So how they have the trails that go around the water. So this looks like a nice little trail going up and back and around. So we can use that to our advantage later. Um, the sun is hitting these trees really nicely. So they're kind of lit up in a nice little goldeny, yellowy kind of a thing. I don't know that I'm going to go as yellow as I did the last time. Maybe not. I think I got a little carried away with that yellow. But I think I still might incorporate some of that, those warm tones in there, the sunlight. And you can actually see this time little bits of blue sky in the water, little bits of blue peeking through. So what I think, oh, that's nice too. Look at these nice little trees making decisions for me. There's a tree that cuts off here and a tree that cuts off here. That's almost square for me, so I think I'm just going to fit in what I can. Um, I'm also going to make a decision. The median line where the water's edge is, it's almost like half and half. Um, I have to make a decision if I'm going to let that be. And I just might because I like the way you get the full branches coming out and making that little arrow there. All right, so yeah, maybe I'll break some rules today and divide my paper in half. If I don't like it, it's paper.
It
Who
could be
cares?
almost thirds though, the top.
Yeah,
the snow and
it really could.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it could be, there's just, you can always make that a little fatter, and that could end up being a third. So you're right. You're right. So. Yeah. So you can see that's how much I put in. That's probably a little. You can mix it if you want, yeah. But I'm gonna go ahead and do our line drawing first on both of them. Again, same as last week, I'm gonna do the same composition on both pieces. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get the lines in there now. Tucked up in there a little bit. Okay, seriously. Okay. So there is a little bit of information. I'm gonna fold my paper so I don't forget where I'm stopping. Not that you guys will be able to see this much, but that is my usual go-to trick, is just folding my reference photo instead of thumbnails. I just kind of do a little couple of different folds and see what I like best. If I haven't already cropped my picture on my computer. Or you can always take the time to do thumbnails. So if you're not sure, do some thumbnails. They'll never hurt. All right, so there is a little bit of a bend. And then it drops down just a hair. I am going to put in the big trees, the big angular, just so I know where everything is. This was the main point, so I'm definitely going to get those bits in there. And this one goes, I have to remember the second one, the middle one goes off the page. Oops. Already making things up here. Have a nice little bound tree here that's creating a little aisle draw there. All right, so I am going to mark in. I do get a little bit of that path back there. And a little bit of that reflection. The rest I'm going to let go for the gesso and for paint. So I'm going to do the same thing on the second one. Smaller on this side. But pathway info. okay. Actually, too, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do an alcohol under painting on this one. So I'm gonna get that in there real fast so it can dry while we put the gesso on the first one. So let me do that real fast. I'm gonna go back to some traditional colors that I would normally use. Like a nice deep aquamarine blue for my darks and into the pinks and such for the snow and oranges for the sky. So I am going to do, now there's not a lot of sky. It's all kind of those trees back there, but I think I'm still going to stick with like an orange from the sky that I would use. And I think that'll help with the warmth of the, all those tree trunks that are being highlighted by the sun. I'm not worried about all the other little tree trunks. Like there's that nice little dark one that sticks up there. I'm gonna wait for those because honestly, I think I want that little section of snow to be clear. How it just kind of goes down to the water's edge. If I put that tree, it's like right now I've got all kinds of lines going right through the middle. So maybe I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna leave that tree out for right now. I'm gonna put a nice light orange. Here. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that reflection in as well. Again, I'm oversimplifying things. I'll add my detail later if I want it, right? Not counting trees, tree trunks, or anything like that. Remember, you can always just sit back and watch. You don't have to do everything I'm doing. You can just hang out, watch. Let me grab a separate cup. Turn it. All right, I'm gonna go grab a different paintbrush. I've been liking a softer paintbrush, a softer bristled paintbrush for underpaintings. The stiffer ones kind of scrub a little much away, so hold on just one second. This one's a little smaller, but we're working on a smaller painting, so it's okay. As always, with the rubbing alcohol to set in place, start with your lighter colors so you don't have gross, mushy, dark rubbing alcohol. Keep it nice and clean. Always a little tricky to get in between the branches, so worry too much about it. Everybody make out okay with that wind? Oh my goodness. This weekend, the wind, I had a demo up in Tom's River on Saturday, for the Laurelton Art Society. Some really lovely people. And I swear I was car sick on the way home. The wind was so terrible.
How
think
how did you make it up to the Malvern?
Oh,
So
you know
were you
what?
caught
That
in the weather
actually wasn't so bad. So when the day that they were freaking everybody out,
Yeah.
when I was driving, it started to rain
Spring got bad.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then and it stayed a steady rain. It started to get a little windy when we hit like Hamilton on the way home. So really I got lucky.
Okay.
It wasn't terrible. Yeah, I was pretty lucky with that.
Mhm.
But now I'll go on to my picnic. And then I'm just gonna go skim right over these branches just to set them in. This is where my nice thin brush kind of comes in handy. Okay, that can dry there. All right. I'll give you guys a minute. How's everybody doing with their line drawings and stuff? Is everybody good? Good. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mix up my gesso while my rubbing alcohol dries. I'll take my time here. I don't want to rush anybody. I do want to get the gesso drying though, so we can hopefully paint over the top of it by the end of the class. I'm using, this is a little watery. I wanted it to be. Yes, I don't want to waste gesso, but don't want it to be too watery. Need it to stick. Should do it. So I ended up being about 2 to 1, meaning 2 parts gesso, 1 part water. And it's actually funny when you put the gesso, if you put the water in the container first, the gesso separates, so you can, it pushes the water to the top, so you can almost see exactly the measurements there. So, all right. Now, it's gonna be, obviously, we're not gonna be able to see, we're not tinting, I'm not tinting anything. We did an underpainting class a while ago where we tinted the gesso in the beginning. I'm not gonna do that, because that's gonna take a long time. So the thought process, you'll have to just, I guess, listen or watch where I put it, watch how I put it. I don't know how much you're going to see because it's clear. So if you want to pause for a minute and watch what I'm doing, just in case, that would be great. What I was thinking of for doing this is, the top part has physical texture. The water is reflections, right? So that can be perfectly smooth in a painting or anything else. It's smooth, it's just reflecting on the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the gesso back up in here where the trees are. I'm going to get some lines going. It'll be interesting to see how I feel about it with no color on it. I kind of have a feeling how it's going to go on this one because I'll already have color down. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it and working it in after the fact. So again, this is just a fun play day experimentation. If we don't like it, we work on it. I have noticed though, because I've been using gesso a little more during my paintings, I have noticed A, you can scrape it off if you really don't like it. B, you can just kind of push it in. So if, you know, and then you still have that texture on top. So if we're trying to get some color in there and then go on top of the gesso, we can still do that. That makes sense. So I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to make upward marks. And what I'm seeing is I'm trying to keep it a little bit thin so that the brush is leaving behind little lines, little trails, little kind of grasses. It's such a small piece that we don't necessarily need big tree trunks. It almost looks like it would be like grasses, but that's okay.
Is that a bristly brush or?
This is a stiff bristle brush. You can kind of see that the pencil's being drug up forward a little bit. I'm going to, I'll get my palette knife. I'm not sure, this might be too thin for a palette knife, but I want to take that and just kind of place it where that log is. And I think it's a little thin. I'll stick with my brush. Sorry for that weird sound. Taking it off.
Could you use the thicker stuff right from here?
Yeah, you can dip your palette knife directly in your gesso if you wanted to use the palette knife if your mixture was too thin, for sure. I'm gonna put a little texture too, right where
Whenever you want to, you can make coffee. They can't see you.
the water's edge is. Fine. All right.
The mud, is that the mud?
Yeah, that's like the mud of the water's edge. So I've got pulling up marks for the trees and stuff up top. I have a little bit thicker on the actual log here, and then a little bit of like a kind of a globby kind of a feel for the mud of the water's edge. I'm gonna rinse off my paintbrush, but I'm keeping the mixture for this side. So I just don't want my paintbrush to dry.
Put it on both sides. Put it on both sides.
Yeah, not right now though.
Right, afterwards.
Yeah, so after we paint here, then we'll do that. Well, this is the extra water, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna pause it for a minute. So for those of you who just stopped to watch, that way you have enough time to get your gesso down before I start painting. All right, so that looks like it's gonna dry nicely. I have this little gloopy drop here. I'm gonna get rid of that. If you have any spots that are super thick, just know they might not be dry by the end of class. So if you want to thin out any of the little gloopy drops, go ahead and do it. If not, you just might not be able to paint right over it immediately. All right. So all my rubbing alcohol should certainly be dry by now. Yeah. must just have one little spot. Okay, so it's dry. So, just like always, now we have to think about order of events. We do not have a sky per se, but we have a lot of things happening in the background. So how do we simplify that? Look at my poor hands. I I was painting yesterday on the big 4-piece and I got a little crazy. So I don't know if you can see there's spots on my hand. That's where I don't have skin anymore. So it's a little sore, a little tender today. Anyway, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use, I don't know, I'm kind of going out of order here. Yeah, I could put that up top too. I'm trying to decide. I again have to make our lives somewhat simple, right? So we can't go too crazy with lines and tree branches and little bits of snow right away. Oops. Oh well, there goes that.
The purple?
Yeah, so this is like a magenta, pretty
Like
close to
violet,
just straight
yeah.
up violet. Doing that just to kind of tone down some of the orange. Because who likes to get right into tedious trees? Not me. Really want all those trees. I'll get there. Okay, so now, I mean, this is kind of nice. Now I can build off of that. I'm gonna go ahead and add this color to the water. So I don't forget. All right. So now, let's see. I am gonna start the tedious task of trees. Like I said, there's some nicely lit trees. That's too orangey. And they're on the yellow side. They're not even on as much brown. They're on into the yellows. And I have a whole different, I have my teaching set with me today. I don't have my big set, so, which is good. I'm limited. It's always better for me to be a little bit limited. When I have too many options, it's too much. That's a little too pale, but it could be used in conjunction, so I'll keep it popped. Could be good. There's lots of different colors, and that's not very. There's lots of different colors happening in here. So this one you probably can barely see on screen. It's kind of a khaki color, but it goes good what's happening back there. So this is a nice complement kind of a color where it'll show itself later when we get some darker things right by it. I'll get some darker trunks in there in just a second. I'm varying where the trunks start. I don't want them all in the line up against where the snow is, because some of them you can see that they start towards the backs. A lot of them do start right with all of that, but not all of them. You do want a little bit of variety. It's going to add some down at the bottom too. Even though when it's reflected in the water, it is darker. So it could still be darker, but I'm just adding them both. For now.
You know what's gonna happen with mine?
What's that?
The dust is gonna go on the paint underneath. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I could build a little shelf.
Well, you kind of have a little shelf.
I'll just do it.
Yeah, the tape will stop it. Let's see. I'm going to go into my nice gray browns. There's a lot of gray brown in there. So, oh yeah, we can see this one. So, this is a small piece, so my trees are mostly rather small. You can make your trees fatter if it's easier. Don't stress about not being able to fit everything or I don't think I've ever gotten right into rolling that fast on a on a painting before. Normally this part is saved towards much later. It's okay. I'll add some of these down below. I'm not being too terribly fussy with getting an exact reflection. There's so many trees in the bottom, it doesn't even matter for the most part. I'm gonna save my darkest darks for where the blue is. So this tree up front and the mud and then the big log down front, that's what I'm gonna save my eggplant for. Some of the trees are a little bit darker back here, but I'll just use kind of something a little deeper than what I have already, but not quite there. Give me like a nice red violet. It looks really brown in this setting. This one is super soft, so it has a tendency to like go bananas and leave a really heavy mark. I don't want too many of those because I don't want them to compete with what I'm going to put up front. If you do want, there is a nice kind of fatter one. So it's going to take a little sideways swipe to get that in there. I'm going to hold off on adding snow to branches just yet. I'm thinking about the best order of events. If I start to put eggplant on the foreground, these crooked trees, it's going to get a little messy when I start to try to add just the paleness of the background. It's just a beautiful, soft, cool snow back there. So if I do too much, I won't be able to glide my pastel back there to get that soft color. So I'm going to start with, again, there's not a whole lot of variety in the light. We've got, on the reference, we've got a little bit of light shining on top of the path and a couple, little sparks here and there. So you'll have to use your imagination if you want more highlights. If you want brighter spots on top of the branches and stuff, you'll just have to use your imagination for that. There's not a lot of shadow. So I'm going to push some shadow shapes into the trees and into the foreground. I'm going to start with that. It's the same thing as last week. Grab some nice medium blues, medium turquoise, to start to get those shadow shapes. Let's see if I like this one. I think I do. So All right, I'm gonna switch. It's it's one of the Sohos. So it's a little more smeary than I want it to be with the underpainting. So I'm switching brands. Let's see. And when I say smeary, I mean it's just picking up that magenta from the background that I swiped in there before. If I cover up any of the trees that I've put already, I'm not really worried about it. It's kind of one of those situations where it's a little nice push and pull kind of a thing. We have to add some back, we'll add some back. So down here, this blue is gonna represent sky instead of snow shadows. I'll mix it up a little bit too when I get to it, but for right now. And again, feel free to add turquoise, add purple. Doesn't have to be just blue, although blue is gorgeous for snow. But purples and turquoise and all kinds of things. Even, you know, you have to just don't go with straight yellow, but some nice creamy goldeny colors. You just don't want it to look like pee, dog pee. You can get a nice warm. Oh, and even into the pinks. We did a little bit of that last week. I put a little bit of pink in there. It's looking a little psychedelic on the screen. Okay. I'm gonna leave this blue out so I don't forget which one I used. See, I'm going to go into a little bit of the lighter snow. I don't have to go right to the brightest bright, but I want to start to get in some lighter colors into the back, and then I can reinforce some of the branches and tree trunks that I have back in there. So this is a lighter blue. I'm not worried about covering up the big fat branches that I put in there before because I can go back over them. They're standing out plenty that I can get in there. So as I'm going through, I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe I should have started with just the lighter colors. But no, in reality, it would still be a back and forth kind of a thing. I would still have to add tree branches back on top of what I'm doing here. So if you were in the mood, you could have, or even for the next one, you could do some of that work first. I'm going to put some of that down here too. There's a lot of nice bright glow in the water. And again, this is just not quite a medium blue. It's a nice little pale blue, but not my brightest yet. I'm just using very quick sideways. Those sideways short sideways notches there. Keep that one out too so I don't forget. I keep moving my coffee. I almost grabbed my gesso. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add some of the bright white, well, the bright snow. I'm not sure if it's gonna end up being the brightest bright just yet, but we'll see. It's perfect. Like,
A yellow one or?
I think it does have a little cream to it. Adding some turquoise. This little bit of hill here. I'll add some turquoise here. Oh, that's really cool. Do you see when I drug the turquoise on top of that yellowy color at first, it really makes those trees stand out. I don't know if you can see that on screen. I like that. That was an unexpected thing. Do it down here. It's a winter wonderland. Not like we have here. That's okay. Let's have that. Okay, let me get. This is such a tiny piece of pastel. I have been dropping sticks like crazy in here. Oh my gosh. I think part of the problem is too, I'm using the same colors and they're my favorites, and then now they don't have any, bulk left, and the worst part is it's like when I'm trying to be gentle is when I drop them the most. Because I'm lightly holding them. Down they go. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and add my darkest. I still feel like I need an in-between, by the way. I didn't really put the in-between down below yet. I'm gonna let that be for a minute. I'm not sure I'm happy with this note, but I'm just gonna let it be.
It's hard to do marketing on little things like this.
It is. And it's funny because I started off, when I started painting, I would take a 9x12 and divide it in 4. So it was what, 3x6 or something, whatever. And it was just, I don't know, I really enjoyed it, but now the thought of painting on something that small makes me cringe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I certainly grew out of that phase of small. But that small is great for when you're out, plein air painting.
Studying for color.
Yeah, when you're just getting a quick notation of color and
Yeah.
so I'm just kind of I'm taking my eggplant and pushing a little hard so I can get a strong line over what I've skimmed on top, right?
You just get a blue on top, it's a little turquoise, right?
Yeah. I'm also gonna be piling that snow on right on top of this. So I'm saving, I think I will use some of that vine charcoal shade, even on this one. I'm gonna test a little bit here because we've got all these little. And it's funny because now the vine charcoal doesn't even look like it's doing much, which is fine. Maybe I'll use it a little bit in the back. Just to add to the tree just a little bit. You can hear that there's a lot of tooth left, so it's picking right up. Although it's kind of helping us have some mid-tones with the branches. We don't have a lot of mid. We went from pretty light to a couple of darks. This way it'll give us. Let's step back and see. So I still have a lot of snow piling to do, right? So I can take some of the brightest and see all these little twiggies that are going horizontally. That'll be fun to just add in an almost white. All right, I'm gonna start to pile that snow right on those branches. I'm gonna start with my darker blue right on this. I do love it when the snow piles on top of the branches. It's always so pretty. And just make sure to take a little peek because it's on the
Now
opposite
that's
of what
on
you
the
think it
water,
would
so
be
you're getting the
down below.
reflection in the water. They can hear me?
No, it's what?
That's a reflection on the water.
Yeah.
That looks nice.
Really?
Snowbank covered. Yeah.
It kind of looks like a critter. There. I'm gonna add a little bit of turquoise to some of it, not all of it. Then I'll go with some, although it's not the brightest bright in the photograph, I'm gonna put touches of the brightest bright on the branch. But not all over, not the whole thing. And mainly because I talked about those little sideways, those little horizontal markings that are in there. So let me use the medium blue for a second here. Oops, can't push too hard. I feel it crumbling. Well, give me. Again, I'm just doing the rolling technique, but I'm also It's a little more linear work than I would normally do with the rolling technique. Like normally I would be encouraging much less linear work, meaning I don't want it to look like a line. I want it to look like a natural flow, and that's why we do that whole rolling where you have it in between your fingers and you're rolling it and moving your arm at the same time. But again, we're working on a small piece. I'm going to add those little horizontal ones. So I'm looking at my sticks. My light is such a small piece, I don't want to break it. So I'm gonna look for another one in here. This is a Soho. I don't know if it's gonna actually mark. So I'm gonna try it over here. Oh, it is. Okay, so I'm gonna so this probably is an actual white. That's because it's from that little cheap Soho brand box. Hey, Bob. I'm gonna mark this down below too. Although the white isn't as prevalent at the bottom in the reflection as it is in real life up front, because what's going sideways is probably more of what's in the foreground. So even though I'm using mainly white right now, I can come up underneath some of them with my vine charcoal and give them a little more heft, or I can leave them be in places. Doesn't have to be. I think I'm gonna take some more blue as well. All right, these are almost invisible, which is fine. This little medium blue, again, this is that Soho brand. Not really standing out much. Not really worth the time. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my vine charcoal and I'm gonna go up underneath it a couple of places. It's just not as dark as I wanted it to be, right?
What do you mean, under the white?
Yeah, just a couple of spots, but
Just to
it's
give
just
it a
not,
look.
yeah, but it's just not as dark as I wanted it to be. I do have a black. Let me test my fate here. Oh, that's a little bit better. You're breaking my rules all in one day, black and white. Once. That's okay. I'm gonna do it every now and then. I don't want to use too much black because I don't want it to compete with the other branches, the big ones. But we can do a little bit. It definitely, the black definitely has a different vibe to it, you know. I do like the eggplant much better. How you do? Like it's great for those little tiny marks, but this has a different. time it is. It's been working away. Oh, wow. It's already 10. Okay. Quick decision as to how much more I want to do on this one. I don't know. I have to say, I don't normally do large snow scenes, and I kind of want to do one now. We've been, after the last couple of weeks, I'm like, maybe I should. I might do a big
Yeah.
snow. I always do large water, but not snow. Maybe something will come good. Alright, so this has a nice pile on that branch. See if I can get some.
Oh, yeah, put it here. Thank you. You take this one.
All right, don't forget to step back. Haven't stepped back yet. I need to step across the room. See how that feels. I'm gonna add some more sky. I think I need to add some more of those little branches down below. I feel like I'm just kind of chinsing out on the water here. So you just get some more. And it's darker in the water, so I'm just gonna add more information here. Trying not to forget to add some variety in the markings so I don't just have soldiers in the water. Probably will add a little bit more. There are some like nice little puppy clouds hanging out. So we'll add a little bit of whites. Something about that blue it's driving me bananas. It feels dull. Gold. Okay. Let's see. I think I do need some more of these guys down here. Yeah, I like those deep turquoises. They're looking nice.
Really, until they put the whitish with it, right? You know, really.
Yeah, it's not, you're not gonna get the true feel until you have the big contrast
Mhm.
with it. All right, I'm gonna pause the recording for a minute. I feel like I'm probably done with the first one, but take your time. I'm not gonna start the second one just yet, so take your time and keep working. Okay, so originally I had planned on adding gesso to the background for texture to the trees, but I don't think that's a good move now. So I have a little brush, little one, and I'm gonna put the gesso, and this probably won't be dry by the end of the class, but I'm gonna do it to pile the snow right on top of the branch. So what's gonna happen is this is clear gesso. So it's going to dry clear. Right now it goes on white, but it will dry clear. And then once it's fully dry, then you can take the brightest color you have, whether it's white, and you might only have white. This will help make your white pop because it's going to sit right on top. So I'm just kind of giving it, I don't want it to get drippy. But I am taking a nice thin brush because I want to have more control because this is such a small painting. Need the control. And then you'll literally have a 3D kind of pile of snow sitting on top of the branch. So I'm just kind of setting it on there. When we do this, because there's already pastel, you won't be able to just paint a line. What'll happen is it will just pull the pigment of the pastel and it won't sit. It'll just ball up on your brush. It'll grab the pigment and just be a big ball on your brush. So just be patient and just kind of dab it in there. And you can make a couple of places, like down here, I can make a little pile of snow sit on top of this branch. And again, it's clear the color that's underneath will show through once it's dry. You won't really lose any of that. So I'm just gonna dab it on there. And then next week when we start class, I'll put the marks on with you guys instead of doing it on my own. And it is funny because especially with all the snow that we've already put in here, it's kind of hard to see where I put it. So I have to be careful that I know where it is next time. So yeah, I can put some here with these little branches. I don't want to go crazy because, you know, if you don't really like it and you do like your painting, yeah. All right, so I did all that. So that's right along just the top of these 3 branches here. Actually, I'm gonna make that one a little thinner. I can see it got a little gloppy. A little thinner. There we go. Okay. Okay, so let me just, all right, so mine's dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. Let me think about
Your other
this.
one?
Yeah, yeah. Think about this though. What do I want to do? If I want to do, because you have options at this point. You can now do an alcohol wash underpainting on top of it. The gesso will take it all. So you can do the same painting again with the same underpainting with the texture now. Or we can do what we did last week and just start painting, which I might do that just for the sake of time and whatnot. Okay, let me do that. So I'm gonna have some pipe insulation at the ready because the texture that I added is not going to be what I need at first. I will need it when I'm ready to add and skim tree branches. And ultimately, too, before I even start, I know that I might have put too thin of a coat, especially because it's already dry. So if it doesn't do what I need it to do, then I know the next time I need to make it a little gloppier, or I can still add layers to it. So those are the things that I'm anticipating potentially happening. So I'm gonna go a little different with the color palette here. Ooh, I can feel that. Well, you can see the lines. Right, maybe not, you guys can't. Hold on, let me turn that light off. You can kind of see the lines showing through. I can certainly feel it. So, the comparison of what's down below, there's a definite difference. This is another one of those Sohos. I just wanted to use something different. I didn't want to go as dark with the magenta as I did the last time. Turn the light back. So you can really kind of see pardon. Yeah. Sounds there. Take through that pretty fast. All right, so let's see what that looks like. I just want to kind of set it. Yeah, I can definitely see the lines that I made, which that's kind of cool. I don't know if you can tell the lighting is, turn that back on. You can see how smooth this is down here, and this one is just a little more stripy. That's based on the gesso. All right, let's see. Time to paint. So I'm gonna paint the same scene again. I'm gonna use some similar colors that I've already used. I use this green. Wait, where's that brush first? It's kind of a green color. Some of these trees have a little khaki green kind of feel to them. So put a couple of those in. Again, I'm not worried about putting the darkness of my main trees until later. Doing some sideways notches with this color in the water below because it's always a little darker down there, so I can have a little more darkness. I like the difference in the textures that's happening. Again, it's still probably hard to see on screen. Get some of these guys in there. So this was a color that before you probably couldn't even see at all. I was using it because up against that lavender, it didn't really show. It's a nice little lemon brush. Always feels like such a mess for a while, you know, like, what are you doing, Renee? You got all those stripy nonsense just sitting there. Go right back into the snow. I feel like I don't want to overdo it with too many trees too fast. Just like before, we'll be going back and forth. I have a lot of stripes happening right now, so I want to go back. What brand is that? Is that Unisa or is it something like that? Nah, it's not Vision. Okay. Mine's not growing yet. It's not dry yet. Here it is. Yeah. Yeah, just keep working on the other one. Don't worry about that just yet if it's not. Because it will make a gloppy mess and it'll stick to your pastel. So
Yeah.
if guys at home, if your gesso isn't dry, don't push it because you'll have to like shave that part off of your pastel stick because it'll dry to your stick. Okay. All right, I'm gonna start with my shadowy shapes again in the snow. Oh, like why does that feel that I put gesso there? I forgot to put gesso with that little wall. So next week I won't bug you with gesso. Next week we'll do just a regular painting. It'll probably be more of just a regular winter scene. I don't know how much snow will be in it. I definitely running out of references.
Maybe we'll have snow.
Maybe
on the
we'll
weekend.
maybe, right?
Mhm.
It could happen. So yeah. Find something good, but wintry pictures are nice too. I mean, they definitely have their own vibe. I'm definitely adding more turquoise to that shadowy section because there's no underpainting. The blue by itself just is kind of it doesn't really do a whole lot. So I didn't pull out any lavenders yet for this and I don't know if I will. Go to my medium blue, start to get some of those in there.
Almost feels like spring, doesn't it?
I know, I think it has because of that magenta.
Yeah. Well, it's the color.
Yeah. Yeah, that pinky.
No, I took
I'm putting the mid-tone blue down everywhere so that when I put the lightest on there, maybe it has something to sit up against. Hopefully it doesn't just like mix together and cause me. And yeah. Right. Now I think I'm ready for the darks, the darkest darks again. So I'm gonna go with what time is it? It's 10:30. 1 whole hour. So much time.
Oh my God.
So much time. Maybe I'll start with the vine charcoal before I go for it. Get some of that stuff. See how it looks on this one. With no underpainting. So I am still kind of rolling the vine charcoal just like I would a regular stick. You can definitely get some of those little twiggies. You get a little sharper point in there. And then I'll set the snow on top of those maybe instead. Get some variety in there. Just like a pitchfork coming in. And there's a lot of darkness down in the water reflection, so I can. What's that? What's it? I don't want to get too carried away with the vine. I've gotten too carried away plenty of times with it because I get excited because I can make all these little lines and things like that, and then I've made a muddy mess. So get too carried away. All right. Go with my eggplant. And get just this in there. Like that little fat at the end there.
second here. All right, what have I got? I'm gonna put a little bit. This is the color I had in the background, a little pinkish violet color. I'm gonna put that with the shadows of the snow, just to have something different in there. Start to build on the branches again, just like I did the last time. Pile on the darker blue first. Have something for the light to sit on. I'll add another branch in there this time. Give it a nice roll and drag. I'll do a little bit of turquoise in some spots with it. And I got lucky today. The first turquoise I picked up did not have a gray property to it. And always, it's amazing how turquoise can have such a gray feel to it. You did not expect it. So, just a couple of places of extra bright. Now I'm gonna add the bright to halfway. Step back. So that was it. Your snow path is really nice.
Yeah, I don't like to treat the.
Well, maybe think about bringing all of them off the page because they're really fat and heavy right now. And they just stop. So when
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
that fat, just keep on
The
going.
top,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I'm gonna add some brightness back here. It is funny how everything just looks a little bit different without the underpainting. So the gesso up top is helping a little bit, but you know, with a lighter touch, it's not that much of a difference. So I'm not. Was it worth it for this? I don't know. I think in the past when we've done um, different types of underpainting with the texture of the gesso, you know, a little bit heavier might be the way to go if I were to do it more or again. For today's, what we did today, I don't know if it was as worth it. You know. Black ones. So let's put the sky in this. That's odd. Need to do that. So I had put some gesso down where the tree log was. And then I like that. Give it a wonky feel in places. There. I do like that little bit of purple in there. It's working kind of nice. Feel like I'm out of focus. Like it's not focused on the camera again. I'm gonna pause and try to refocus. I feel like the one on the left isn't focused at all. So now they're both a little more in focus. They're not much different than each other, not like last week. I felt like last week there was quite a difference between the two. This week they're pretty darn similar, which is fine. So you can see on this one, you can't see where the gesso is at all anymore, where I put it down. It's hard to see in the first place, but it's really hard to see now.
Is it still wet?
I don't know. Let's find out. Yeah, it's still wet. Some of it is, not all of it. I just kind of made that, I just kind of drug it over a little bit there, and it's sticking up right there, but not nothing crazy, just it was dragging some of it. I'm gonna put this gesso back in my gesso container, even though it's got water in it. It'll be fine. But I don't want to waste it. So you guys keep painting. We have plenty of time. I'll probably stop the recording. I don't think there's gonna be much else other than literally letting gesso dry.
So winter trees, it's a lot of rolling, it's a lot of tedious marks. We did simplify a bit. I didn't put any foreground information in. I just don't know that it was necessary to have those little bits of shrubberies up front because it's such a small piece. Maybe if it were larger, I would have tackled that at some point. But for something so small, it's almost like the viewer is just a little bit closer to the action kind of a thing. I didn't use the vine charcoal as much as I thought I would, but I do want to find a compressed charcoal pencil that will sharpen maybe between this week and next week for whatever winter scene we're doing. Because no matter what, winter scenes have lots of twiggy little branches that we can add towards the end. Well, my pencil is really dead, but you could always use graphite as well. You don't have to use vine charcoal. You could use your graphite. Maybe that's what I can try is an ebony pencil, or one of like the 9Bs, something like that that's a little bit darker.
Yeah, you've done that before.
Yeah. Yeah, when we do like the power lines and such, I just keep looking at these really heavy lines. I have to fix that. Let me see. I won't stop the recording just yet. I want to fix these 3 lines are
Yeah.
so heavy. I don't like them much at all. So
Maybe there's more motion in the water.
yeah, I might
Just darken the other ones.
maybe I want to scrape some of it down though. I thought I had another question here. This one will do. So I feel like that just got really
Reminded to.
too much. Too much. That's what happens on the second one. You're like, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. And I got a little out of hand. All right. So I'm gonna take the black, and just put it a little, which is not the whole way. Okay. Now, I think I just got a little wide, a little too far away from the initial line. Just gonna make it fatter. That's a little better, a little more natural. Let me add the other colors to it. Now, little fluffy clouds in the sky if you want. I didn't put the turquoise down here. Okay. I'm gonna stop the recording, but again, you guys still have plenty of time.